Hey children, welcome to Station 6, and today in the station we're still analyzing exponential functions, but now we're analyzing the tables, and the point of analyzing the table is kind of twofold. One, we want to be able to write an equation that has this format from these tables, but we also want to use whatever pattern is happening in the table to continue the pattern to figure out what should go in these missing boxes here. As you can see here, it doesn't make a clean jump by 1. This actually goes from 2 to 6, and this one goes from 2 to 5. So you can't just do the pattern one more time. You do have to have the equation to figure out what you need to do, or you have to do more of the box on the outside so that you can fill it all in. So a quick reminder, the B is the growth rate. And we are multiplying. So instead of a linear equation where you're trying to see what you're adding every time, now we're trying to see what am I multiplying by every time to figure it out. And of course, A is your initial value. A is your initial value. That is like our y-intercept, our 0, A, which means it happens when x is 0. So that's usually a lot easier to find on these graphs or these tables because you look for where x is 0. So if we look at these two problems down here, we're actually going to do 2 of them as an example, and then you're going to do the rest with your group or on your own if you're by yourself. The directions here say determine the initial values, so that's the A value, and the growth factors, that's the B value, from the following tables, and use this information to find your missing value. So I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can write your equation and 2 different ways that you can find the missing value. So the first thing I want to find is the initial value, and that happens when x is 0. So right away I know my initial value A is 2. Now the next part can sometimes be pretty easy, or it's sometimes not as clear to see, but I want to ask myself, what do I have to multiply by 2 to get 6? And then what can I multiply by 6 to get 18? And because these are over here are moving by 1s, it should be the same number. So I know I can multiply 2 by 3 to get 6, and I do know that 6 times 3 does give me 18. So in this, I've just found that B is 3. So as I said, sometimes it's pretty simple to see the pattern, sometimes it's not simple to see the pattern. But I do have everything I need now to write my equation. So I could write y equals a b to the x power, which would be y equals 2 times 3 to the x power. And if you see here, the value that they want is when x is 5. So I would just plug 5 into this equation, and thankfully for you, you have a calculator. So I would write y equals 2 times 3 to the 5th power, and this right here you can put into the calculator exactly how it is, and it'll give you the answer that goes in this box right here. So I'm not going to take the time to do that right now because I don't have a calculator in front of me, but I know that you can get it done. So let's go ahead and look at this next one. So this one, for some of you, it may not be as simple to figure out exactly what is the value that I multiplied by. Some of you, it may be a little easier to figure out. But there is one thing we should all be able to figure out, and that's the initial value. I can tell that A is 3 because that's what I have when x is 0. So this color is a little bit light, so I'm going to darken it up a bit. There you go. And now I need to ask myself, okay, if I started with 3, how did I get to 3/2? And if I had 3/2, how did I get to 3/4? And some of you might say right here, from 3 to 3/2, oh, well, I took 3 and I divided by 2. But remember, we're focusing on multiplication. So dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by a half. Okay, so now I can check if I take 3/2 and I multiply by 1/2, do I get 3/4? So let's see. I'm going to come over here to this side. I'm going to do 3/2 times 1/2. I multiply straight across and I get 3 on top and 4 on the bottom. So it does work out. It seems that what I'm multiplying by over and over again has to be 1/2. So that means B equals 1/2. So I can write my equation now. Y equals the A value, 3, times, and since it's a fraction, I'm going to put it in a parentheses, 1/2 x to the x power. Okay. Now I told you there's another way to find this value without using your equation, and the way that you could do that is you can actually just keep going on the table until you get to that value. So for example, I could start my table at 2 and just keep multiplying by 1/2 until I get to 6. So I could do, let's see, where's my pen? 2 3/4. 3, I'd multiply by 1/2. That would give me 3/8. 4, I'd multiply by 1/2. That would give me 3/16. 5, I'd multiply by 1/2. That would give me 3/32. 6, I'd multiply by 1/2, and that would give me 3/64. So now this would be my solution that goes in this box. But of course, I think it's easier. You have your calculator with you. Just go ahead and plug this 6 in for x in this equation and use the answer from there. I think that's the easier way, but if you really like to figure out where these numbers are coming from, then feel free to just continue the table and figure it out on your own. So, if you look at the rest of this page, there are 2 problems there left for you to complete. And then there's 4 more problems here for you to complete, and then you're done. So unlike a linear equation where you're trying to figure out what you add or subtract, here you are trying to figure out what do you multiply by to get to the next value. So go ahead and get started on that. I will see you at the next station.